Record on this computer. All right, well, welcome. So we are coding with Google Apps Script. You don't need any coding experience at all to be able to code. Today, what my purpose is to tell you that you can code. You will learn almost nothing today. That I will promise you. You're not going to learn how to be a coder in an hour. That's ridiculous. Just like I can't teach you calculus in an hour, right? We can do a little overview, be familiar with what it is, but you do need really to take a whole class and things to get there. So that being said, I did learn how to code in an hour. So that's not true. It's only kind of true because I was texting with my friend and I'm like, he wasn't texting me back. And I'm like, what are you doing? And he said, I'm coding. And I said, what are you coding? He says, I'm coding in Google Apps Script. I'm like, I'm going to learn that. Well, let me see. Is this my next slide? No, it's this one. Google Apps Script is based on JavaScript. So the first thing I did is I spent 1 week on this Codecademy, DOK1 tutorial of some of the fundamental basics of JavaScript. And I was about to get on a plane, and I had about an hour before my plane was going to take off, and I thought, well, I'm going to at least look up Apps Script. Like, what the heck is it? What is Google Apps Script? So I go and I look this up. I just do a Google search, and it says that the methods, the codes are insert sheet. I'm like, I know what that does. What's great about Apps Script is what you want is the code. It's insert sheet. It's replace. It's append slide. I mean, these are the codes. Like, I don't have to know what it is, and I know what it does. And so I think that's one of the best reasons why I like to share Google Apps is because unlike some other languages, it's not a foreign language. It's more like an accent, It has some styles, like you say pop versus soda, depending on where in the country you are, and there's certain etiquettes of politeness. But I mean, we're all speaking English, and I feel like a lot of it's like that, except Marianne, right? She's gonna. So Marianne, you want to know if we're gonna practice. So my purpose for today is I have a Go Slow Drip workshop on Google Apps Script. And I am assuming that you all are taking that and you're like, well, I'd really like to have a human face with this email that I'm getting. So so that's basically what I'm here. So Marianne, we can do some practice and we can do some things. What I have for us is I'm gonna just kind of briefly describe Google Apps Script. I'm not gonna teach it like it's doing it in the workshop where I'm trying to really teach it to you in the workshop. This is just more like an intro. I'm going to give you a couple of small things, and I'm hoping you will feel successful. You're all going to code today. We're all going to fist pump because we are coders, and I got some real simple examples, but I think you're really going to you're going to use both of them. Like, you're going to be a coder with something that's useful. You're like, you're right, I do need to know how to code, and I want to do this. Unlike all of my math students who always want to know, when am I ever going to use this? Today, I'm going to let you know when you're going to use this. So why Google Apps Script is because Google Apps Script lets you answer like, why can't I? So I get this a lot. Alice, I have Google Classroom, and I've made a copy of a Google Slides for each student. Can I update their slides? No. Well, I mean, you could open up every student's Google Slides one at a time and copy paste new slides in there. Sure. Knock yourself out on that. I'm a high school teacher. That's 150 times. No, thank you. That sounds terrible. But with code, I can. In fact, I did that this week. That's one of the things that I added. If you use the alicekeeler.com/reusegc, and I think I'm just going to do an all-day seminar of back-to-back webinars on this because I have so many features in this, and you're going to want to use this in the fall. And I'm working on a premium version, so it has even cooler features than the free version that I've already put up there. So part of the free version of alicekeeler.com/reusegc, and of course that whole thing is coded. I have been coding for 6 years, and this is something like, 14,000 lines of code. I don't actually know, but it's more than 10,000, I promise you that. And if I were to show it to you, your eyes would bug out, but that's 6 years of practice. And what I have it doing is I'm having it do all kinds of ways to manipulate my Google Classroom to make my life better. So when I make my Go Slow workshops, I use alexkeeler.com/reusegc. It is my home base for a lot of the things I do in Google Classroom because it just makes things a lot easier, and you can use that for free. And the thing that I added there for free is push slides, because since it's connected, I used code to connect it to your Google Classroom. It knows your roster. It knows your assignments. Well, awesome. If it knows your roster and it knows your assignments, just let your brain start spinning on things that you could do with a roster and a list of assignments, because I can code that. So what I have is it just says, gives me a list of your assignments. Like this one has slides in it. And then you can throw slides at it. It says, what's your master slides? You just give it the link to your, so like I have a Google Slides of daily warm-ups. Well, I only want to do one at a time. I don't want to give them all the daily warm-ups at once. So then every day from the same slide deck, I throw them another one. And I coded that this week because why can't I update students' Google Slides in Google Classroom? Well, you can if you know how to code or if you use my code, right? So that's why we want to learn Google Apps Script, because we want to be able to do things that frustrate us. It is based on JavaScript. You don't have to learn JavaScript. It would be helpful if you, okay, like say you're in the airport and you know where you sometimes walk by, they have like a one-page laminated guide to using Microsoft Word, or a one-page laminated, you know what I'm talking about, for like different tech tools, a quick sheet. If you just got like one of those for JavaScript, you'd know more than you needed to know. You need to know so little JavaScript. Some. Mostly what I do when I need some JavaScript is I Google search. I'm like, JavaScript dates, because JavaScript dates in JavaScript is a little tricky. And so pretty much every time I just Google search how to do a date in JavaScript, and then I copy and paste it over. And so really coding AppScript, that's my next slide. Yes. Really coding AppScript is not about memorizing code. You don't need to memorize it at all. Almost anything you want to do, someone has already coded it and they've put it out for free on the internet. So I do this a lot. Like I want to know how to whatever, and I Google search it and it comes up. So one of the modifications that I made to alexkeeler.com/reusegc this week is I have it so that when you choose the assignment out of Google Classroom, you're like, I want to use this assignment that has slides in it. And then it's updating all of your student Google Slides. It takes some time, it's not fast. And when it's done, it takes your assignment in Google Classroom and opens up the assignment so you can go look at all the students' work. So I didn't know how to make it pop up in a new tab. That's a JavaScript thing, is yeah, just on click. I can't even tell you because I don't know, because I copy and pasted it off the internet. I just did a search for like how to JavaScript, pop out window in a new tab. Like there's the code, thank you, copy, paste. I literally copy and pasted the entire thing with no modifications, and it just worked. It was amazing, because usually you have to at least read through it and tweak a few things and insert your variable in there instead of their variable. But no, I was just able to just straight up, it was a good feeling. And now I now know how to do this where stuff just starts opening up and it feels like magic. And I think that's really the power of knowing to code, is you do feel powerful. You're like, no one else can do this. I have my Google Classroom and my stuff popping up and automating, and it feels awesome, even though I just copy and pasted it off of the internet. So there's the first thing, is I don't learn to code, I learn to copy and paste. I know how to Google search. That's most of what I do for AppScript. And the other thing for AppScript is that it's multiple choice. So what happens in AppScript is when you push a period, it gives you a multiple choice drop-down list. Usually, sometimes that breaks. It's very frustrating. When it breaks, what I'll usually do is I'll open up a new AppScript and I'll start doing it over here to make the multiple choice menu show up, right? And then I copy and paste it back in the code I'm actually working on, because I really, you know, if you don't spell it right, it doesn't work. That is a flat out fact. So I don't want to type it, even if I know what it is. I've done this for 6 years. Eventually you start to memorize some of it, right? I'm still not going to type it. I'm going to use the multiple choice. because if your capitals are wrong or you spell it wrong, it won't work. Here's one I mess up all the time. Get URL. Okay, guess what that does? Gets the URL, right? So I got my Google Slides, I get the URL or the web address of the Google Slides. My Google Doc, I want to get the address of the Google, like I use this a lot. I make something or I pull something up and I get the URL address for that. But in my mind, URL is capital U, capital R, and capital L. Like that's how I write it when I'm doing an email or a blog post. But you know, JavaScript just doesn't like that. It's capital U, lowercase r, and lowercase l. So my code won't work. It won't run. It's not working. What? No, this looks so good. Like, yeah, URL. This looks good. And then 20, 45 minutes later, I'm like, oh, got a capital R and a capital L. And I just make them lowercase and the whole thing runs and it works. Yeah. So if I can avoid typing because I'm prone to doing silly things like that, I will. I don't know why I turn off the air conditioner. It's so hot in here. And then, you know, look, it makes me look like a supermodel with the air conditioner. So some things with coding with Google Apps Script, like if I go to a Google Doc and I go to the Tools menu, I choose Script Editor, the first thing I'm going to do is type Document App. Now notice that it's a capital D and a capital A. So when you code Google Apps Script, the first thing you do is ask, what app are you using? And if I'm using a Google document, it is Document App. So that's the one that I really need to memorize, although it's pretty easy to look this up. So I do a Google search for Google Apps Script tutorial. First thing that comes up is the official documentation for Google Apps Script. It says developer.google something, right? It says Google in it. You can tell it's the Google website. It starts with developer. And I go in there and they have a list on the menu on the left. It's like, what are you coding? And it says document app, map app, slides app. It says it right on there. So you'll know what it is. It is document app, capital D, capital A. And if you mess up those capitals, it will not work. And the very next thing that you should do is put a period. So I type document app, and I put a period, and boom, here is the multiple choice. What? That's all I wanted in life. If you want to code a spreadsheet, it's the same thing. I go to the Tools menu, I find Script Editor, and I'm going to use Spreadsheet App. So Document App if I'm coding Google Docs, Spreadsheet App if I'm coding a spreadsheet, Slides App, Tools menu, Script Editor, Slides App. And you're like, Alice, that doesn't fit the same pattern. And that is because the original Google Apps Script did documents and spreadsheets. And then I don't know if you remember a few years ago, they rebranded Google Presentation to Slides, and they rebranded Google Spreadsheets to Sheets. That was a rebrand. It's been so long now, you don't even remember it used to be called something else. So the code for Google Apps Script, the ability to code slides is new. So at the time that they allowed you to code slides, man, I lusted after this for years. I'm like, if I could code slides, I would do really cool things. And hey, guess what? I feel like that's true. You know, as soon as they brought this out, but because of the branding, they call it Slides App. I bet they'd really like to go back and change the other two, but they were made pre-branding. So Document App, Spreadsheet App, Slides App. Now this is the one that messes me up the most. Now Google Forms doesn't work the same way. It doesn't have a tools menu. There's no tools menu. So there's up in the upper right-hand corner is 3 dots. And then you can find the script editor. And here's what gets me every time is I think Google Forms. Forms. And I type Forms app, and then it doesn't work. I push period, and there's no multiple choice. And I'm like, all right, it's Form app. This gets me in Drive, too, because if I do type:/form, it'll filter for my Google Forms, which is really good to know when you're using Google Classroom. It will filter for your forms when you're adding from Google Drive. But of course, I always type TYPE colon forms plural, and then it doesn't work. Dang it. Just saying. Okay, so you go to the script editor and you type form app and you press period and it says, what do you want to do with this form? And I read the list. And for the most part, that's exactly what you need to do. You type, what app are you using? And you put a period in there. And then it says, well, what do you want to do with this form? What do you want to do with this document? What do you want to do with this spreadsheet? And I pick it. And then I end with a semicolon. That's important. So if you're taking my drip workshop for intro to coding, I definitely emphasize that. You need to have a semicolon at the end of every line of code, and I'm going to show you why right now. We're going to code a secret message. So that when you open Google Slides, the students are going to get a secret message of the directions. Like, do you ever you want to give the students a slides, and they're going to make a presentation, but where do you put the directions? It doesn't really fit on the slides. You know what I'm saying? And you kind of want to remind them every time they open their slides. Great. So we're going to do that. Do you see here in white? This is the entire code. This isn't going to be hard. So I'm going to demonstrate this, and then you guys are going to do it with me. But here it is. What you'll notice, I'm going to go to the next slide because I have it looking like the code. What we're going to do is we're going to make a brand new Google Slides. We are going to go to the Tools menu. We are going to go to the Script Editor. And my very first line of code says, what app are you using? Well, I'm coding Google Slides. So I type Slides app with a capital S and a capital A. And I press period. And it says, well, what do you want to do with these slides? Wow. I would like to get the user interface. The user interface is menus, pop-up boxes, sidebars. It's what the user sees, and it's what we use so that other people don't have to look at our code because it's scary to look at people's code. So I want to get the user interface, and then I would push period. However, here's a fun trick. You can push period immediately after the get UI. Now notice it has these parentheses because it's what's called a method. Don't worry about that. That's the code. And then I push period and it will give me this multiple choice list of, well, what user interface do you want? Because I have some different choices. Now I can push that so it's all on the same line. But the problem is the period basically it stacks things together. It gets a little too wide, it gets real wide. I can't see it over there. So if I just push enter and I push the period, I have not put a semicolon, so I didn't finish the line of code. You see why you need a semicolon? I'm like, yeah, I'm not done. I'm just gonna keep working down here. So if you go to the next line and push period, it's really the same line, like a page with word wrap, basically. And it's just nice because I can see it on the screen. It doesn't go off the whole screen. Does that make sense? So that's where you'll notice I've got in yellow here is the semicolon at the end. I'm like, yeah, now I'm done with this line of code. So the semicolon triggers to AppScript that's that line of code. And then on the next line, I can start a new line of code. Otherwise, they are bunched together. That's not 100% true, but we're going to call it true. You will notice I have make sure you cite all your sources in single quotes. Anything text, is that one of the methods? Did you get that from multiple choice? No. No. Did you get that from a Google search of JavaScript? No, it's not JavaScript. It's not a method. It's got to be in quotes. This is your stuff. It's your stuff. So any text strings have to be in single quotes. Text strings have to be in single quotes. But I feel like it's important. You're going to see the word string all over the place. So I'm going to explain this. Do you guys remember when you were in kindergarten and they gave you a styrofoam plate with beads on it? And some of the beads had letters on them, and you would get like a a pipe cleaner or a string, sometimes a plastic string, you know what I'm talking about? And you would string these beads on the necklace, and you would make your name. So it said a little block with an A, a little block with an L, a little block with an I, right? You make a string of letters to make your name. And that's exactly what we're talking about, is a word, any word is a string of letters. It's strung together to make the word. So the start and end quotes here on my strings, my text strings, is kind of like the back of my necklace where I tie them together. And they're strung together with single quotes. So when you hear the word string, it means text.
Can I ask a question?
Please do.
The parens, so you have dot alert, open paren, then your single quote.
Mm-hmm.
So single quotes always have to be in parens?
Well, my method, so can I talk math for a second, Patricia? Will that freak you out?
No.
Do you remember back in the day when you did function notation in algebra? Let me see if I can like annotate on here with this Zoom thing. Okay, Zoom. Where's the, come here. Here we go. And I want to annotate. Where's the annotate? No, it's not going to let me do that. Come on. I thought I could annotate. Isn't that a thing? Guess not in full screen. Okay, well, forget it. Okay, do you remember like it had F parenthesis X parenthesis equals X plus 2? That is function notation.
Okay,
You
okay.
remember that? I'm an algebra teacher, so I really remember that. Okay, now look here, my very first line of code, line 1, it says function.
Right.
My function, open parenthesis, close parenthesis.
Right.
It's function notation, just like algebra. Not just like, how about exactly like?
Okay.
So you remember you had in algebra with function notation, the input, output with the function machine. So you had f of x equals x plus 3. So f of 2 is 2 plus 3. So my input was 2 and my output is 5. You remember that?
Mm-hmm.
That is literally what we are doing with code, is you've got these parentheses like f of x. And if I put something in the parenthesis, it then takes that and outputs it somewhere else.
Okay.
Now, a lot of the functions don't have any inputs. Like, I don't need an input.
Okay.
Okay, some of them do. So remember I told you I got this code that I copy and pasted off the internet that pops out a window?
Mm-hmm.
So that is function, open URL, open parenthesis, and then it put a variable in the inside. We'll call it X. And it closed the parenthesis, and then it had all the code. So it's expecting to receive a URL, and then it's going to do this code to pop it out in a window.
Okay.
So then in my code, I go slidesapp.create, and I create some slides from code. Like, I'm not really looking at slides. And then I do, and I name it with a variable, so I call it slides. And then I do slides.getURL. And I name that with a variable because I'm not stupid. I name it URL. My variable is URL. So on the next line, I do the get URL that I copied up to the internet. And then I do the parentheses. And then I type the variable for URL inside of the parentheses because I now gave it the input. Now, it's actually a completely separate function. It goes over to the other function, the get URL. It's like, dump in this URL. And it runs through the function machine and outputs my window. And it feels like magic. It does. I need to show it to you because you're like, oh, window just opened. But the thing is that I wrote that one function, the get URL with parenthesis X in the parentheses. I wrote that one time. And I have 14,000 lines of code, right? And I have a bunch of things, functions in my 14,000 lines of code that where the last line is, hey, why don't you pop this out in another window? Except one of them's popping out my Google Slides, another one's popping out a spreadsheet, and another one's popping out my Google Classroom class. But so what they're all popping out is a URL link to whatever it is. sticking it into that one function, so I get to reuse the same function over and over again, because it's like saying, well, what now about you did f of 2, why don't you now do f of 3? Remember doing that in school where they just gave you like a whole bunch of them? It's exactly like that. And it feels really cool because it just reuses the same function with different inputs from different other functions. Remember you did f of g of x? Yes. You're like, I'll never use that. And now you will. Okay. Good? So this is exactly what we're going to do, except you're going to customize your own message. So whatever goes on in the little single quotes, you will know if you did it right because it should turn red. So I'm going to go ahead and stop this share. And I'm going to wait. I didn't need to stop the share as much as I meant to get out of full screen. Okay, now I'm going to do this again. And share screen. Google Chrome. Yeah, here we go. Now here's what I'm going to do is I'm going to refresh this Google Slides. It can work? I'm not sure. I don't think it works on refresh. I know it doesn't. Okay. Actually, it's not going to work at all. This is the wrong function. Dang it. I was trying to make it easy, and then I forgot about the part where it has to say on open. Okay, we're going to make a small modification, very small modification to the code that I have here. So the first thing
worked for me.
Because you ran it.
Okay.
So the difference is I wanted to show up without the kids having to go look at the code. So I'm going to teach you a little trick right now that you're going to extra appreciate. So what we're going to do is we're all going to make a new Google Slides. You know me. I like slides.new. So I did a slides.new, and woo, I have some new slides. This is for your work. I title it something, whatever. And then I go to the Tools menu, and I choose Script Editor. And I am going to zoom in. What do I not like about AppScript? It is too much authorization on the OAuth. I need some breakdown of Drive app so I can use small amounts of the permissions. All right. You know, they're giving me a little survey here. What happens if you use Drive app? Remember, we use Document app, Slides app, Form app, right? If you want to code Google Drive, you can code Google Drive, but you have to use Drive app. Well, the problem is when you type Drive app, it's you get the permission screen that pops up, and it's like, this person has access to everything you own and can delete everything you have. Okay, technically that's true. But none of my code takes all your stuff. I could, but I don't. And it's like, I just need to rename something. Can we just change some permissions? Just something really small. I just want to do something small. But no, you give me permission to everything. And so I just wish that they would make something less than Drive app so I could do small changes, because it's scary to get these weird permissions. Okay. So in between the curly braces, it opens up to function, my function, open parentheses, close parentheses, curly brace, curly brace. Your code goes in between the curly braces.
So, Alice,
Myself some room. I just pushed some enters. Do you see how I now have 10 lines of code? No, I don't. Someone had a question.
so where are you getting the URL from that you're inserting in between the parentheses?
You're not doing that today or tomorrow. 6 years, you can ask me that.
Okay.
I'm saying that's what I learned this week, 6 years later.
Okay.
If you'd like to see that code, I can switch over and show it to you.
No, I was just curious. I was trying to follow along.
At the end, I will show you what that looks like, okay?
Okay.
Okay, and then we're going to remember not to freak out when we see it, because I just copy and pasted the whole darn thing off the internet. I didn't code it at all. And you should do that too. Not cheating. It's not cheating. Okay, but I do like to give myself some room. So I'll usually push enter a bunch of times in between the curly braces. And you'll notice that when I put my cursor right on the curly brace, it turns green and it shows me the matching curly brace. If I delete this one, it's not going to be red. It says, I'm so lonely, I don't have a friend. And so a lot of times when my code doesn't work, I go and I literally touch every single curly brace to make sure they all have a friend. Sometimes I have an extra curly brace. That happens. I'm like, I have 2 end curly braces. One of them doesn't have a friend and needs to go. Okay, so that's important. And it does, you can put as many enters as you want. Extra enters and extra space bars don't ruin your code. So I like to space stuff out. You guys remember that episode of Seinfeld where Kramer adopted the highway? And so he decided on his adopted highway he was going to paint the white lines black, so to have wider, more cushy lanes, kind of like that. We're just going to have more room to work. It's going to be great. Even though that didn't work out great for Kramer. Okay, so my first line of code is always, what app are you using? Well, I'm coding slides. So I'm going to do slides app, capital S and capital A. This will work in a Google Doc and this will work in a spreadsheet. Except I'm going to make a tiny modification. It'll be exactly 100% the same, except for this tiny modification is that I don't type slides app if I'm not using slides. I'm pretty sure that makes sense. Okay, so I type slides app and I push period and what? Multiple choice, that's all I wanted. So as I scroll down here, I'm like, I don't know what these are. If you don't know what it is, you don't need it. That's our mantra. If I don't know what it is, I don't need it. Okay, so I don't need these things. I don't know. Some of that seems interesting, but no. Here we go. Look at these. Look at these lovely babies. This says slidesapp.create. Would anyone like to tell me what would happen if I clicked here on create?
It would make a new slide.
It would make a slide. Actually, the whole slides. It would make a brand new Google Slides, like typing in slides.new. And you see it has the word string in it, which is why I felt it was important to tell you what a string was. It means the name of the slides, which you'll put in quotes. Doesn't that, you almost want to do that right now, don't you, Cleo? You're like, well, I do want to make some slides, but that's not what we're doing. That is not what we're doing. So we're going to move on. Now the one right under it says get active presentation. This is the one that I use 90% of the time, 99% of the time. I usually am coding the slides that I'm using. I'm usually encoding the document I'm using. I usually am coding the spreadsheet that I'm using. So I do slidesapp.getActivePresentation, or I use slidesapp.getActiveDocument, or excuse me, wrong, documentapp.getActiveDocument, or formapp.getActiveForm, or spreadsheetapp.getActiveSpreadsheet. And I don't remember any of it because I literally pick it out of the multiple choice list. So I don't mess it up. I really don't. So this one, Get Active Presentation, is the one that I would use 99% of the time. And the other one that I use a lot is Get UI, that user interface. So I'm looking at the code. They don't want to look at my code. So I need to give them something to look at. So that's my user interface. And while I'm in here, I don't know what this is, so I'm going to skip it. But then it says Open by ID. And one that you probably like a little better is Open by URL. So if you have a link to a Google Slides, you're like, open this Google Slides and do stuff to it. So that's how I coded push slides. It's not even that hard. Look at this, you guys. I said slidesapp.openURL, and you'll notice, I'll show you later, my code, you click the button that says push slides in the sidebar, and it says, what slides do you want to push from? And you're like, this one, and you paste it. That's all I did. I did slidesapp.open by URL. One line of code. See? You could do this. Okay, but we're going to choose Get UI. Now, if I put a semicolon, that is the end of my line of code. Now I can do this. You notice I push period. It's like, well, what do you want to do with the user interface? Oh, look at those lovely options. Those are some great options. I can do some buttons. I can make an alert. I can create a menu. I can prompt them. This show modal, you're like, I don't know what that is. Then you don't need it, although you kind of do because it's really cool. That's what does like the little pop-up window that you code more specifically. But we're not going to do that right now. I'm going to delete the period. And I'm going to say, okay, look, I could put the period here and keep coding to the right. Or I'm going to push enter and push period. And I'm just going to word wrap it basically. I'm still in the same line of code. It just gives me more room. So just so you know, that's an option. Because you start stacking the methods and you're like, wow, this is getting out of control. You can continue on the next line if you want. Now what an alert does, I'm just going to put this first one because we're not going to use any buttons. What an alert does is just puts up a box that doesn't ask them to input anything. A prompt, they get to respond. Like, how many copies do you want?
Okay, okay.
So an alert is just, okay, thanks for letting me know. Like, I've done what you, a lot of times I do an alert after I run the code because it doesn't look like anything happened. I'm like, I've created your Google Slides. Go check it out in Google Drive. I do that a lot. All right, so and then the end of my line of code, now I'm done. This is super important. Before you type the prompt, put the semicolon, because otherwise you won't remember. You're going to get distracted with your string. So where it says prompt, I need to have single quote and end it in a single quote. And then I'm going to save it. Okay. It doesn't matter what you name it. Save it, and then I'm going to run it. Okay, it's running it. And then notice over here in my Google Slides, it's got this little pop-up. Let's start with that, okay? I'm going to start with that. So what you're going to do is you're going to make a brand new Google Slides. So if you will just minimize this zoom, just whoop, bring the zoom in. Tuck it to the side. So now you've got some room to do your Google Slides. So go ahead and make a Google Slides. I use slides.new, but I don't really care how you make one. Just make one. And you're going to go to the Tools menu and choose Script Editor.
Yep.
Everybody good? Mm-hmm. And then this is our code. What app are you using? Slides app, capital S, capital A. You're going to push period and choose from, don't type it, choose it from the multiple choice. Get UI. And just for fun, we're going to do the dot on the next line, just for fun. Why not?
And what, I'm sorry, was it alert? What I'm seeing is alert string prompt. Is that right?
That's why I explained to you that you're going to see the word string everywhere.
It's sorry, yeah.
It is letting you know that you're going to have to do some single quotes. It's
okay, all right, okay.
Tip, it's like a tip.
Okay.
Yeah, anything that you
okay, I see.
String, you know you're going to be using single quotes.
Okay.
Oh, I think people are like giving me chat and I don't see it. Oh, everyone's saying hello. Oh, thanks, Gabby's used my reused GC script. I'm going to add a few more. Yes, Gabby, I'm getting there. I'm adding some more features to the reused GC, and then I'm going to release it publicly because I think everyone should use it in the fall. It's going to be amazing. And then I'm going to make you guys a premium version. Now, here's the thing, like with the reused GC, my friend Jennifer Scott, she actually learned how to code from me, I'm just saying, and she has coded Slides Yearbook. If you go to slidesyearbook.com, she has directions for how you can make your school yearbook using Google Slides.
Oh.
And it costs $9 to get a yearbook as opposed to $100. So she's got this whole system and method about doing it. So then she took my online workshops from the Go Slow, and she figured out how to code Google Slides, and she's now has an add-on that will automate a lot of the process for making your yearbook in Google Slides. So one of the things that I've coded is called roster to slides. So it takes your class roster and puts it into Google Slides. So it puts a student, it says, you know, Gabby, and then a blank slide, and then it says Deborah, and it puts a blank slide, and, you know, whatever, right? She loves this. All right. I don't, you know, as a teacher, I don't use it as much, but she uses it all the time. So because she pesters me about it all the time, I put it into the reuse GC. So this is now a native feature. So when you use the alicekeo.com/reuse GC, you'll notice there's a button on the sidebar that says roster to slides. You click the button. Well, since the code already knows what your Google Classroom is, it puts your roster in there for you. Kind of cool. So I did that for her. And so then she's giving me like feature requests. She's like, Alice, I wanted to do these other very specific things because she's an English teacher. And as an English teacher, she wants her students to do this. I'm like, well, I'm a math teacher and I don't want my kids to do that. I'm like, I'm not going to personally code anything for the very specific use case that you have. So here's what you're going to do is now that you've taken this workshop and, you know, probably a couple other things, you're going to feel bold. You feel bold. You're like, okay, Alice, this is cool, but it's not exactly what I wanted. Don't email me. I will not customize it for you. I'm just telling you right now. You'd be surprised what people send me. So she goes in, she went into the script editor and she's like, well, I want it to do this. So I just edited your code. I'm like, yes, that's what you should do. You may not have 6 years of experience to be able to code all of this from scratch yourself, but after taking at least this workshop, maybe the second one, but really the first one's going to be good for you for this, is you should be able to make very minor changes within code that I've made to make it specific to you so that you like it better. That's our real goal here. You know, you're not going to be a master after taking 1 or 2 6-week workshops, but you will know enough to get in trouble. Yeah. You're like, I'm going to play with Alice's code. I see what it does here. I'm going to change a little bit because I want to do this. You will be able to do that by the end of the workshop, and it'll feel awesome. Okay. Was everybody able to get the code to work? You're going to click save and run. Click the little disk icon. At what point do they stop using that as the save icon? For reals.
Save.
When I was in college, I would buy all these little plastic sleeves. Like they would snap together so I could put my 3.5-inch floppies. It'd be one on each side and they'd snap together. So I could take them all to class without them getting damaged. Backpack. You guys remember that? Bad old days? I don't think thumb drives were that much better. They at least got less damaged, but then you drop them under your car and drive over them. Or, you know, like I grew up in Alaska, you drop them in the snow, forget it. You ain't getting that back till the spring. My dad would always get so mad every year. Like when the snow melted, he'd be like, there's all the shovels. Yep. He left them out and didn't put them away. Okay, so when you do save and you push run, you go back and check your slides. You should have your pop-up. Is it working?
No, I've got it. I have an error.
Do you want to share your screen? Hold on, I got to give you permission to do that.
I'm on a different monitor. It's going to be tricky.
Okay. So if you typed exactly what I have, this is DOK0 right now. Don't think, just type exactly what I have. It will work.
Okay.
Can we see your screen again, Alice?
Can
The
we do
screen
that?
with the code? The
Want me-
slide that has the code?
Yeah. Hold on.
Okay.
Okay, so you want me to go back here to the slide? Here.
Yeah.
Yes, that one.
So
Okay.
here's the problem.
Okay. The
Here's the
curly.
problem. How do I get the little pop-up to show up? It's not there. I push run. Now it shows up. Do I want my students to go into the code and push run? No, that would not be great. That would be not great. So there, you can name your functions whatever you want with some exceptions. No spaces, no weird characters. It's just all your words are smashed together. No spaces. And then there's a few words that mean something. So if instead of my function, I say lowercase on, uppercase open.
For some reason, mine is, so when you're doing that, mine is extremely minimized. I can't see yours. Must be something wrong with my screen. Let's see.
Well, let me just say this and then I'll troubleshoot with you.
Okay.
So if everyone could please replace the words my function with on open. So you can do an on open and on install. There's just a handful of them that if you use this, the function name itself is some kind of code. So on open is what runs when you open the slides. So if you'll just change it, click save. Okay, Patricia. It shouldn't be all small. I mean, you're looking at
Yeah,
your
it's a tiny, yeah, something just that, let me try this. Let's go over here.
okay.
Okay, I've got it back. Now I've got to get back to that. Could you take it back to that slide again?
It worked.
There. Thank you. I've got it. All right. So my function, slides app.
I'm gonna change it from my function to on open. We made a small edit.
Okay.
My function to on open. Okay.
Yeah.
On open. Okay.
You're gonna want to use that when you code a menu, stuff like that. You're like, I just want this to show up with no effort. No one have to push a button.
On open.
What happened?
And then
On open.
Could you name it on open and then something else because you don't want a whole bunch of them just being called on open? do
No,
you?
but I mean, like, this is one line of code, so I can start a different series of actions. So what I can do is on the open is I can have the pop-up come up, I can have a menu appear, I can have a sidebar appear, I can do a bunch of things, actually. So one of the things that when you get more advanced is you learn how to save values to the script. So for example, when you run the alicekeeler.com/reusegc and you pick your Google Classroom, it remembers the classroom ID number. So now whenever you go and do anything, this is not the right code, so don't worry about it. I'm gonna make this up. I'll do like classroom.open, and then I put ID in there. This is not even close to the right code, actually. But it's something like this. This ID isn't named anywhere, but I actually saved it. You can't see it. And it allows me to reuse it other places. So what I'll do is on the on open is I'll tell it like, hey, don't you remember that I saved the classroom ID? Why don't you do these things automatically that I can then use it in other functions? So each line of code is completely standalone. If I type another line of code, it doesn't even realize there was a line of code above it. It's like, what? What are we doing here? It's like a child, like, I just told you. No, you don't remember that I just told you? No, it doesn't. So I can just type something else down here. So I can do slides app dot create else. So if you want it, remember I said it doesn't, the first line and the second line, they don't talk to each other. If you want them to like talk to each other, you have to connect them. So I name it something, variable, so that I can do slides dot get. Why isn't it working? Dang it. Hate it when the multiple choice stops working.
your sources.
So these 3 lines of code have nothing to do with that line of code. They're just, I will just push enter a few times because I'm like I just like to space them out. So if you wanted to have a bunch of things happen on open, I'm like, here's what I want to have happen first. So I push enter a bunch of times and then fresh start. Now here's what else I want to have happen. Do some more code, push enter a few times. You don't have to push enter, I just like to. And then a new chunk of stuff that you want to have happen. And there's 3 completely independent chunks of code. It's fine. I'm going to leave this just so you can see how this works, just for fun. Okay? Now mine's going to be all complicated, so yours won't. Can you please close your slides?
Everyone? Okay.
Yeah, close your slides.
I just have a question. What does the unopen function would do?
I'm going to show
Because
you.
I did get
Do you
the,
see this?
okay.
Watch this, okay? Right, I closed my slides. I'm going to do Control-Shift-T to bring my slides back. Anyone know that trick? Control-Shift-T brings your
No.
slides back. What?
Oh,
Cite your
wow.
sources.
Control-Shift-T. Okay. Hmm.
Now, if I go to Drive, what happened here? It should have given me the other alert. What did I do wrong? Just check my stuff. I do this a lot. I go to recent. Didn't make it. What did I do wrong? And sometimes I'm a dope. Tools, script editor. Why didn't it do this? Slides app.
Oh my God, it worked.
Yes, isn't it exciting? This
Yes.
I don't know why it's not working. It looks like it should work. It's frustrating when it doesn't. So what you can do, look how easy this is. You're all gonna wanna do this from now on in all your stuff, right? So you know when you make a copy for every student?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so what you're gonna do when you make a copy, before you make a copy for every student, in your template, you're gonna go to the tools menu and go to script editor and you do function and you're gonna change it to on open and you do slides app, document app, spreadsheet app, whatever. .get UI, .alert, and you're just like, this Keeler thinks you're wonderful. Like just give him a little note of encouragement. And then you put it in Google Classroom where you make a copy for every student or whatever you do that makes a copy for every student or they file make a copy, whatever. And when they open it, it says, Miss Keeler thinks you're wonderful. Or don't poke your neighbor, stay focused. You know, it just depends on your personality.
It's pretty cool.
I bet you they will tweak out. Like, what happened? How did you do that?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Look how easy that is. Amaze your friends with code. So you all have to do this from now on. You're just going to do it. If you're going to make something that's a copy for every student, you should include a secret message. I'm just saying. I think it's like required from now on, since you're now all coders. Don't say I'm kind of a coder or I'm a little coder. You just own it. I'm a role model and I'm a coder.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's go into full screen here. Go to our next project. We did that. How about mail merge? You guys want to learn how to mail merge? Doesn't that sound like a beginner tool thing to do? Mail merge? We're going to mail merge.
Before you move to this one, before you run it, we have to save it, correct? And rename it?
You got to save it. It'll prompt you to rename it from untitled. You can name it whatever you want. Don't put any weird characters in there.
Okay.
Just put
Thank
letters. Use letters. You're good.
Mail merge.
Yeah. Doesn't that sound advanced? I know everyone loves Autocrat. Who uses Autocrat? Anyone? If you don't use Autocrat, you should. So what Autocrat does is like students fill out a Google form and then it updates a Google Doc. So you can make like a certificate or something. So it merges their answers into Autocrat. So students fill out a quiz or something, you can use Autocrat to merge it into a Google Doc so you can give them back their quiz and their answers. And you can put feedback on their Google Doc. Yeah. It's really cool. But you know what? You can just make that yourself. That's what I do. Why use something someone else made when you can just make it yourself? So let's do that. Now, we're
Mhm.
obviously going to do it at a very basic level today, but it's still going to feel really cool. Okay. We're going to create a mail merge. You're going to create a Google Doc, and we're going to put something in there to replace. So we're going to make a template. So you could put like XXX, or if you use Autocrat, their merge tags are the less than, the keyword, and the greater than. So we're going to make a Google Doc, and we're going to put stuff in there that we want to swap out. So like, dear, your name,
Mhm.
your address is address. We're going to make something like this, okay? Let's start with that. Let's not even look at the code. Can you just make a new Google Doc, please? You know me. Did not auto-complete it. I like docs.new, whatever. Now here's the cool reason to use a mail merge is I'm gonna do a few things. I'm gonna put my Bitmoji in here. I know it's shocking. Like, wait, Alice, do you use Bitmoji? Sometimes. Shake this up. Okay, so I'm gonna do name directions, but I wanna make this really big. Like, really big, too big. Yeah, and I'm gonna change the font. And I'm gonna make it hot pink. So what's nice about doing a merge is it merges into the document where I've got pictures and formatting, and it looks the way I want it to look. Because if you fill out a Google form and you print the Google form, then it looks like a Google form. You see what I'm saying?
Mhm.
So I might even put something like this. On question 1, you put, and I'm gonna make a box, insert table, 1 cell, answer 1. Except for student stuff, I like to make it a handwriting font so it looks like a student response. And you know, because I'm getting old, I need the font to be bigger. Now I'm gonna copy and paste this. Because on question 2, you put answer 2. I'm gonna just do something simple. Can you create a Google Doc?
Okay.
I want you to have just a tiny bit of fun with it. Don't get too out of control because we're doing a sample, you guys. But change some font color and some font size somewhere, okay? Because it's more fun that way. You're like, yeah, it merged it and it made all the fonts the way I wanted them. So I'm choosing to use the Autocrat less than, greater than, but I'm gonna put, don't forget to go to room. I'm gonna do just an XXX real big because I'm gonna replace the, you can replace anything. It doesn't have to have the less than, greater than. The idea though is you wanna make it not look like a word because if you use that word somewhere else, it will replace it. Here's a true story. One of my pastors, I think he probably was telling me a joke. He was saying what he does is he's got a Word document. So when he's going to marry somebody, it's like, you know, we're all here together to join Bob and Laura together in holy matrimony. So then the next person is going to get married. He does a Control F and he does a find replace. So all the Bobs he replaces with Larry. And all the, what did I say her name was? I don't know. Joanne, he replaces all the Joannes with Mary. So then the next time someone got married, he did a Control F and replaced all the Larrys with the new dude's name and replaced all the Marys with Larissa. So then, of course, he's reading his script and it says, you know, the Holy Father and his mother, Larissa. Because, of course, the Virgin Mary is now the Virgin Larissa because he did a find and replace. So I try to make, when I do my things I want to replace, it's called a merge tag. I try to make my merge tags things that I replace, things I would never type on purpose. It just looks weird enough. That's a tip. All right, we ready?
Is that this what's between answers? Is this the greater than, lesser than symbol? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, like you could do whatever you want. Some people use dollar signs, like a double dollar sign. The reason why I use like a double less than or a double dollar sign is because you don't normally put two of any symbol. You don't want to replace everywhere you have a dollar sign because sometimes you use money. Sometimes you use these things. So you put two of them, you're like, no, for reals, I would never do that.
Does it have to be in the boxes? You want this to put it?
I'm just showing you how I can make it fancy and like styled.
I see. Okay.
So you can do whatever you want. I'm going to switch back
So
to.
it's
Go ahead.
probably easier for a kid to find in a box, is it? I think it's clear.
I was just showing you how I might want to make it look different than just taking what's in a Google form and dumping it into the doc. But I
Okay.
want it to look nice. So just choosing a random style element. It has, don't worry about anything on that page other than the branch tags. So this is the code. You'll see it's not very long. I'm going to put this into full screen. This one I can leave as my function. Just so you know, I never, ever, ever leave it as my function. I mean, you can. But I prefer to name my function something meaningful about what the function does. That's my preference. So I would call this mail merge, but no space. It'd be M-A-I-L, capital M-E-R-G-E. Alice, why would you do that? Because that's kind of the notation of JavaScript. JavaScript smashes words together, does not capitalize the first letter, and capitalizes the rest of them. So once you start coding, you just start doing that with everything because, you know, you're used to it.
And there's a space in between doc and equal and body.
You don't have to. You don't have to.
Okay.
But I like to. I just like to space it out.
Okay.
So I want you to remember that each line is completely independent from every other line. So if you want to mix the lines together, like the first line of code is always, what app are you using? So I put this document app and I push period. And I already told you that 99% of the time I do get active document, semicolon. That's almost always my first line of code. But the next line's like, what app are we using? I forgot. And the third line's like, I forgot what app we're using. And the fourth line says, I don't know what app we're using. Because every line is independent. So what you want to do, you're like, well, I'd like you to remember this. So I'm going to give it a variable. So var is variable. So anytime you type a line of code, you're like, I'd kind of like to remember this. You give it a name. And you can name it whatever you want, but don't be stupid. Pick something that makes sense. What should you name your document? I use DOC so that I know that I'm talking about the document. You could say cat, and then later you're confused. I'm like, why is the cat getting a body?
Get body, yeah. Okay.
So a document has a header, a footer, and a body. So the first thing I have to do is get the active document. The next thing is like, well, do you want the header of the document? Do you want the body of the document? Or do you want the footer of the document? So if you use document app, your second line of code is probably going to be get body. But I want to get the body of the document. So kind of a general rule of thumb, I use a variable, and on the next line, I type the variable, and I push period. It says, okay, well, what do you want to do with this document? Oh, you want to get the body? Okay. All right, but when I get the body, I want to like remember the body. So I give it a name. What should I name the body? I don't know. I call it body. Do things that make sense, friends. Do things that make sense. Then you notice on the third line, I'm like, I want to use the body. So I take body, which is the variable, and I push period, and then I read the list like, ooh, look at all this stuff I could do with Google Doc.
Yeah.
What?
Get act-
But what I want to do is replace text. Like that's literally the method. Do you know what that does? It replaces text.
Okay.
The best ever. So then you're like, okay, what am I looking for and what am I going to replace it with? Notice they're in quotes. Yeah.
Hmm.
I will give you the link to this slide in the chat if I can find it. More chat. Cleo, when you said make a copy, for instance, what do you mean?
Like in the spot, I was like, if I wanted to give that direction to the students, like, hey, don't forget
Okay,
to make a
actually, that
copy
would work.
of this.
I see what you're saying.
Or teachers,
You have to have editability for the pop-ups to come in. So if they're a viewer, the pop-up won't show up. So if they have to make a copy, they're probably not an editor, they're probably a viewer, and then the pop-up won't show up. Great question.
okay.
I've learned that one the hard way. I learned that one the hard way. Basically learned everything the hard way. Hence how I sent all of 500 people a notice that their subscription was expiring. Like, how? Is that how that works? That's not what I meant to have to happen. Dang it.
So when they got into Google Classroom, like for students.
Cleo, you have a really bad echo. Can you type it in the chat? I'm sorry.
No, okay.
Oh, I only sent that to Gabby on accident. Here's my slides, you guys. I'm like, why did Gabby send me this link? She didn't. All right, tools, script editor. I like to push enter a few times. Give me some room to code. So I got the start of the curly brace starts the code. The end of the curly brace ends the code. And then I'm going to do, what app are you coding? Document app. Period. Woo, multiple
Yeah.
choice. Most of the time I want
Yeah.
get active document with a
Take
semi,
my phone because I've been calling her. I'm sorry.
and I push things out into Google Classroom. Yes and no. Cleo, if you say they have view access, which is the default, then they are not editors. If you say the middle option or the make a copy option, then yes, they are editors. Right. And when they turn it in, they become a they become a viewer and not an editor, and so then they won't see the pop-ups either if they turn it in. When you return it, they get edit access back. Okay. Document app, get active document. Now, that line stands alone, but every line I'm talking about the document, like every single line I'm talking about the document. So in front of that, I need to do VAR DOC. I got to give it a name. So I want you to get in this habit. You write a line of code, you're like, do I need to use this again? I should name it. I'm not sure. I'll just name it. Like, it doesn't hurt to give your line of code a variable. It doesn't hurt it. You're like, I don't know. I'll just do it. If you want two lines of code to work together, you have to have a variable. On the next line, if you write if you make a variable, type the variable. That's not always true, but it's a good tip. So I just use DOC. I'm going to type DOC. You see how it turns blue? Like, whoa. It knows it's a variable. What is DOC? It says they're equal. If you remember math, if it's equal, you switch them out. So I really wrote document app.getActiveDocument semicolon, but I didn't have to type the whole thing. And then I push period. Like, what do you want to do with that document? Oh, Well, what a fun question. Look at this list. How many things in this list do you know what they are? Dare I say most of them? Dare I say, could you code a Google Doc knowing jack squat? Oh, get ID. I wonder what that does. It gets the ID. It's wonderful. You see why I like AppScript? Like, oh, get the selection. I might like that. That's not what I wanted. By the way, if you mess it up, you have to delete it all the way up to the period and retype the period to make the multiple choice show back up. I knew we weren't going to do this in an hour. And in this case, I want to get the body. Because remember, you've got the header, the body, and the footer. So when you use a Google Doc, you got to remember there's 3 parts to your document. So you're always going to do first document app, get active document, and then you're going to do either get the header, get the body, get the footer, most likely, because you're going to do something to one of those things, right? Oh, wait. I do it to the body 99% of the time. How many times have I coded the header and the footer? I don't think I ever have, to be honest with you. I mean, I could. How easy would it be to get header? It's right there. Not hard. But I just don't. I just don't put stuff in the header. I don't know. Maybe you do. So I do get body. By the way, if you start typing it, it'll filter the list and do a semicolon. But I'm going to use the body more than once. So I'm going to name it. I'm going to name it VAR body. Do you guys see I just spaced stuff out? Because it doesn't matter. They don't have to sit right on top of each other. Give it some room. Woo, room. All right. If I use a variable, I put it on the next line. So I'm going to type body. You see the pattern here? I got this. You can do this. You can do this. What I want you to be able to tell me at the end of this is, I don't know everything right now, but I can do this. I can do this. Push period. It never gets old. It feels amazing. You know why it feels amazing? Because sometimes it breaks and it doesn't work. And I need this multiple choice. What's going on right now? Not good. But I get very upset. I don't know why it breaks sometimes. Sometimes things break. But there's just such lovely things here that I can do. Look, it's clear, copy, edit, find, stuff I don't know, who cares? Get the margins. Oh, look at all these fun things. There's so much fun things. Ooh, insert stuff. I can insert stuff. But here, look, it's replace text. Who knew it was this easy? It's replace text. Okay, well, what am I replacing? I'm gonna highlight it in my document and Control-C copy so that here I can paste it. Did you notice what I just did? I know I did that fast. I'm gonna Control-Z. They are letting you know you should put something in here. I double-clicked on it to highlight it, and then I did a single quote. I did a paste, and I did a single quote. Because it better be read. Your string better be read. It's got to go in the single quotes. Just so you know, you can technically use double quotes, but don't. I will judge you. I'm just saying. Here's why I don't want to use double quotes, even though you can. Formulas and spreadsheets use double quotes. If you're coding a spreadsheet and you need to code the formula into there, now you've got a conflict. Is that the quote for the spreadsheet, or is that the quote to end the text? So just don't. It's just style-wise, people are going to use single quotes, and if anyone looks at your code and you have some double quotes in there, they will make fun of you, and I will make fun of you, and I'm just warning you now. I won't make fun of you. I'm just making jokes. I think you should do single quotes. Okay, so where it says whatever I typed, right, where it says name, what do I want it to put? I want it to put Alice. And of course, I'm going to put a semicolon. Now, if you're not sure if this should be a variable, just put one. I don't need it to be a variable. It's going to replace the text. I don't need to bring that up again. It's not going to mix in with anything later. But if you're not sure, go ahead. Name it, replace, var. It won't hurt anything. If you're not sure, just make a variable. I don't need one. But I do want to replace another one. So I want to replace more text. So I just put it in. And so I go over here. I'm like, okay, here's my other one I want to replace. Cool. Oh, see what I did wrong? Needs to be red. Single quotes, friends, single quotes. And I'll replace it with whale migration happens in the winter. Whatever. And then I need a semicolon to end that line of code. These two lines of code do not mix together. One has nothing to do with the other. Do you see this? Semicolon, new line of code, new stuff to do, no mixing of the variables, ain't got any variables. So they're just separate, mutually exclusive for anyone who likes math words. And I'm going to do it again. I'm going to replace the text. I'm going to replace this part. Whale sperm can be useful. I don't know where I got that one. It's almost 5 o'clock, so you know what that means. Okay, and then I've got this triple X. Do you see how I am copying and pasting from my own document, even though I'm perfectly capable of typing XXX? Because I need to be 100% sure that they 100% match. And the odds of me having a typo is not 100%, but pretty close. So this way, even if I have a typo, it still works, you know? So body dot replace text. Save. Now, if you do user interface does not require permission. That's why when you did on open slides app dot get UI, that the students will just get it as soon as they open it, because UI does not require permission. However, document app, slides app, drive app, those require permission. So notice what happens when I push run. It says I have to authorize it. So when you have that little pop-up to the students, if you type other code, the pop-up won't work on open because they have to authorize the code first, just so you know. So if you're gonna do that little fun trick, don't do any other code. The only code you have is the on open alert, okay? Otherwise it breaks. So I'm gonna have to authorize it. I don't think you can see my authorization. Whatever it says, say yes. So now when I go look at my document, notice that it replaced everything. That was fun. You're like, Alice, that was really stupid. Why didn't you just type that in there in the first place? I'm going to show you in a minute. But I want you to see how easy it is to do a mail merge. Wasn't that kind of fun? Okay, so let me know when you're ready to move on. I want you to try it. I want you to be successful with the mail merge. Thanks, Cleo. I'll go back to my code so you can look at it. I 4 times replaced the text. Those are 4 independent things that have nothing to do with the other one. I didn't need a variable. So I didn't, but you could have. It doesn't hurt. If you want to start your coding journey with, I give every line of code a variable just in case. Great. Go for it. Eventually you'll figure out what does and doesn't need a variable. I'm going to add a slide. While you're doing that, I'm going to add a slide on here because, of course, I had a temporary mishap of memory. This should say Oh, geez. I really messed this up. Function. My function. This is what happens when you do it from memory instead of, it should say on open. And I'm going to make this bigger so that you notice. Okay. Now that the slides are updated, don't you love this about slides? Gabby, that's exactly how Autocrat works. Doesn't it feel good just to know the inner workings? It's lovely. The other link I gave you opens up the exact same slides, and of course, if I update it, you get it. That's why I love slides. All right. Any questions on mail merge? And then I'm just going to do some magic fast that I'm not teaching you to show you why this is not stupid. And then I'll answer any questions you have. Okay?
Are you gonna show like pulling off of a spreadsheet?
Yep, that's what I'm going to do.
Okay, that when I ask my question.
But I'm going to do it quickly. It would take me another hour and a half to walk you through it. Okay? I'm going to Control Z undo. Do you notice I only had to do one Control Z? That was cool. You know, the code did it did 4 things, right? So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do sheets.new. Again, I'm going to do this quick. So bear with me. I need the name. I need answer 1. I need answer 2. And I need the room location. I think those are my things. Okay. Come here. I like to go to listofrandomnames.com. I'm going to make, no, don't make 20 of them else. Sometimes I just want to show off and they're like, I'm an idiot because it takes a really long time to run the code. Do it. Okay, so I'm just going to, whoops, escape, do these. And then my answers are going to be, this is the answer, 1. This is my second answer, 1. Gym, cafeteria, parking lot. All right, great. So I have like a Google form or a spreadsheet or something where I've got this information that I want to merge a whole bunch of times, right? I'm going to copy the link up at the top, and I'm going to add some things to my code quickly. So yeah, that's great. So now I want var ss equals spreadsheet app dot get active spread. No. See how I'm used to that? But I want to open by URL, quotes, semicolon. Yeah, no, what did I do wrong? I need a starting quote. There we go, okay? Do you see how the color coding, and it's not red, this is the problem, okay? And then just like when I have my Google Doc, I'm like, okay, it's the document and then the header, body, footer. Well, a spreadsheet has the spreadsheet and then it has the sheets. So I need to do var sheet equals ss.get get sheets, plural, and I want the first one. And just a fun fact, JavaScript starts counting at 0. So 0 is really 1. You thought you would never use math, and now you're using it all over the place. Okay, and then I'm going to do sheet.get active range.get values. Okay, and then I want our len equals data length, and then for var I equals 1, I less than the length, I plus plus. Do you see this? When I touch this curly brace, it's like, it goes with that curly brace. I'm like, yeah. You see how easy it would have been for me to forget the bottom one? So I have the end of the function curly brace, but I don't have the end of the for loop curly brace. You will learn the for loop in the class, you know, the one that's emailed to you. So this will make sense to you later, except I want to now replace this with data I0. And I don't want whale migration to happen in the winter. I want to replace it with data I1. So it's row I, because it's going to start at 1, it's going to go to 2, and it's going to go to 3. So you have a variable that is a counter. And then it's column, now it's JavaScript, so column 1 is really column 0. And then the next one's in column 2, so 1. Do you see how once you get the patterns down, this goes real quick? Yes, save. I forgot something. Var, wait, I need to do doc dot, oh man, I'm gonna mess this up now. Forgot something. Document app doesn't let me make a copy. And just don't worry about what I'm doing right now. Come here. Just don't look. Forgot a step. Merge. Okay. Okay. var ID equals that. And I need var drive equals drive app dot get file by ID. Cool. Now I need to do drive dot make copy. Plus, this is not good practice, but I'm just going to do it this way anyway. 0. Don't worry about that. I realized. Oh, wait. Man, what's wrong with me? The doc equals document app dot open by ID, and this is the doc ID, and var the body equals the doc dot get body. I realize that if I make a new document for each one, then I have a different document ID and I have a different body for each one of them. And I have to code that in. So just ignore all that. Don't worry about it. It's good for you to see me make some changes and mess up. We're just going to go with that. Okay. Yeah? And run. Okay. Yeah, so now because I said drive app, it's going to make me go to Google Drive. This drives me nuts because it forces me to use Drive app when I'm using Google Docs, which Drive app asks for a lot of permissions that are scary. And I never want to use Drive app, and it makes me, I hate that. It's like old school. Document app is old school app script. Okay, we're going to go here to recent. We're just going to watch it. It's going to be amazing. Doing it. Now it's going to do it twice. Oh, come on. Check my code. You says it did it. So I made a copy. I named it this. Semicolon, is that my problem? Is that I forgot semicolon? Oh, you know what? It's because it should be the. That's why. Now it's gonna work. Now it's gonna work. Okay, watch it. I'm gonna watch it and drive. It's gonna be amazing.
Oh, okay.
It's not amazing yet. Come on. I wanna refresh.
You think you just put the, you didn't put like the doc? Is it supposed to be the doc?
I just named it that. But you're welcome to help. Do you see what, this is why you're not allowed to send me your code, because it's stupid little things. You think I'm going to find that? No, I'm not going to spend an hour looking for, you put the instead of the doc. Okay, so like this one, I called it the. That is the copy. The is the copy. So on the, I want to get the ID.
Got it.
And then I'm going to document app, open by ID, the doc ID, and then on, see, it's the doc, and then I use it. See, each time, the doc ID, the doc ID, the doc. You see?
Yeah.
1, 2, 1, 2. They match, right? Why? What the heck? It's because you're all watching me. See, when I do this by myself, it works great. Okay, why? Here's my document. Why won't it make a copy? Okay, you know what? I'm gonna put some logger.logs in here. This is good because I want you to realize that even though I completely know what I'm doing, sometimes I'll still sit here for an hour like, why won't my code work? It's always something stupid. And then I'm gonna, oops, logger.log. Okay, so what logger does is it just grabs some information and displays it on the console instead of doing something with it, just so I can check stuff. Like, where would I put the ID? Like, I don't want to drop it in the document. I just want to see it. So let's see what happens when I run this. I'm gonna refresh. And if this has 10,000 documents in here, probably does. It doesn't. What is going on? It says I have length 1. Okay, what happened to my spreadsheet? I have one sheet. Oh, dang it. It's data range. You guys, I never mess this up. Do you know how often I use sheet.getDataRange to get values? I grab everything off the spreadsheet and do something with it. I don't know, like every day. Get active is the one cell that I have clicked. Which I never use. I never use that. Okay, now it's gonna work. Now it is going to work. It's running. Yes! Do you see what I'm talking about? The fist bumps are bigger if it doesn't work the first, second, or third time. When you like, damn, why doesn't this work? And you want to scream at everyone near you. And you're like, oh, I don't have a semicolon. I forgot what. Oh, I misspelled this. I put URL in all caps. Well, that's a shame. But then it works and it feels amazing. Every time. Feels so good. I'm going to open one. Okay, it's coming. It's still running the code. So we're just going to chillax because when it's done, it's just going to like throw it in there. So it made it's just going too fast. Like it's making all the copy. Aha! Ah! Did you see it? It's like popped right in front of you. Did you see that? Did you see that? Yeah. Yes. Yes. That felt good. Okay, you guys, I'm going to give you this code. I'm going to put it into the chat. Stop sharing. Give this to all of you. Here is the code. So if you feel like staring at my code for a while and trying to figure out what the heck I did, go to the tools menu, grab the code.
Okay.
Enjoy the rabbit hole. All right. Questions? Things you're dying to know? The only thing preventing you from being a really good coder is that you don't code. So you know what? I just start coding things that are stupid. I'm like, well, it would be faster not to code it, but I can. So you remember when I did the replace text? Like, why would you do that? You wouldn't. You wouldn't do it once. You'd only want to do replace text if you could loop it and do it like 10 times or 100. But you know, when you're learning, I'll just do it once. I just code all of it. Whatever you're doing, no matter how stupid it seems to code it. Just code it. It'll at least feel badass. Yes. So Cleo, let's back this up just a tiny bit away from me showing off at the end, okay? I'm gonna go back over here. Cleo, will you be able to take these slides?
Okay, what's going on?
Make a new Google Slides and make an alert.
Oh, no.
Yes? Maybe.
Alice,
Yes.
Alice, I'm so sorry. I have to go.
Yeah, of course. Of course,
My-
please go. I'm answering
Okay.
questions. I have nothing else.
Okay, that was awesome. I'm going to have to practice it by myself. I got part of it to work, so I'm going to go back and work on
That
it some
is
more.
the deal. You just sit in the dark and eventually it works.
Yeah, all right. and mutter incantations, right?
Yeah. So Cleo, though,
Okay.
okay?
All right. Thank
Forget
you
all
so
my
much.
crazy things, but you're going to work your way up to that. Like someday I'm going to be Alice. Not today. Today, I'm going to wow and amaze my students with slidesapp.getui.alert.
No, listen, when I grow up, I'm going to be Alice. That's my plan.
You are. That's for sure.
Bye, you guys. Thank you.
I am like laughing at what, so I was doing the math workshop and someone referred to the order of operations like it's a person. And I'm still laughing at how I answered that. I said, I'm like the order of operations. Like I like to be the Alice Keeler. The order of operations is not a god. And you don't follow him blindly. I think I'm funny. All right, so your goal here is to just feel like I can do it. Not that you can do this, not that you can do this, but rather that you can code. If you put the time and effort into it, you can do this. And that's all I'm really hoping for is for you to right now give me a thumbs up. I can do this. Yes. Right, Cleo says yes. The rest of you are like, heck with you, Alice. You can do it. Were you successful with the alert on the slides? See, start there. So what you're gonna do all from now on, every time you make a copy per student, you're gonna code an alert. Can we start with that? And you're gonna be the coolest teacher ever because every time kids open your stuff, they get a message. And it'll be fun. It'll be really fun because you're a coding wizard. Okay, I'm gonna stop the recording. And if anybody wants to ask questions,